San Francisco, it's Rex Broadcasting Wrestling Observer with Dave Meltzer and Bryan Alvarez.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Let's get it on!
How's it going, everybody? This is Dave Meltzer. We're going to be here for the next 2 hours talking pro wrestling. I got Bryan Alvarez here, and this is going to be a night where it's just you, me, Bryan, and the phones, and emails as well. So we just want to talk about what is going on in pro wrestling. A lot of stuff happening last week, this week coming up, of course. NWA TNA starts television on Fox Sports Net. This will be on Friday, June the 4th. 3 o'clock in the afternoon in all time zones, pretty much. And big step for them, risky step. And we'll talk more about that one. Of course, last Sunday we were not on because it was Judgment Day pay-per-view. One of the bloodiest matches in the history of World Wrestling Entertainment with Eddie Guerrero and John Bradshaw Layfield. And Eddie Guerrero ended up spending a couple hours in the hospital. Needed 16 shots. When on a SmackDown on Thursday night, when you saw him, boy, you could see, I mean, that was he did a nasty job on himself.
I remember when Sean cut himself at Hell in a Cell straight down the middle of his head. I thought that one was grotesque, and to look at this scar, it almost was like the cliche from ear to ear.
Yeah, I mean, what possessed him to do that?
Yeah.
I mean, it was really quite a dramatic scene, and they got a good match out of it. And obviously they needed a good match because they're probably, well, I guess they are coming back with a rematch on the next pay-per-view. WWE is pretty weak right now. I mean, financially they're not weak. Financially they're just doing great because of WrestleMania and just all the deals that they have made and everything like that. But they're going to be, they're going to be doing 3 pay-per-views in a 6-week period coming up pretty soon, starting on June the 13th. So, doing so with, a roster that's lacking the depth because of so many guys that have left and, of course, a couple of key injuries as well. Which Kurt Angle and Big Show, are going to be out of action for at least a little while longer. Raw, killer show, The Rock returned. I know, Bryan, you didn't know that one was coming, did you?
No, actually I didn't. I was just watching the show, and there was Eugene, and I figured, Regal was going to make the save from or something, and then here comes The Rock, and I thought, well, how about that?
Yeah. Quite a segment.
It was good. It was good because, it was a good use of Rock, and it got Dinsmore over, it got everybody over. It's just how far can they go with Eugene?
Well,
they've gotten him way over, but it's like the character is so limiting that it's almost like you don't want to waste hitting that character too over, because then what do you do with him?
Yeah, well, and clearly they haven't figured out what to do with it, because on the house shows he's just wandering out there and costing heels matches, rather than in any kind of a program or anything like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's true. Let's see. Also on Monday, I think that we're on Monday, and I don't even know what the main event. Have they announced the main event for Raw on Monday? Have you heard?
I haven't heard it yet, no.
Okay, I have not heard. But Monday they're going for, I guess it would be something like 8 weeks in a row, if my numbers are right. It's off the top of my head, of great main events, and certainly had a very strong battle royal on Monday night, and a great tag match with Chris Benoit and Edge beating Randy Orton and Batista. Raw's been a great show of late.
Raw is fun. I look forward to Raw again, and for a long time I even dreaded it when that necrophilia phase.
Oh, I mean, longer than that. I think most of that whole year I was, and a lot of last year as well. So, anyway, we're going to go ahead and do a break right now. You can call us. We've got a couple of lines open. You can call us at 1-800-878-PLAY. You can also email to dave@wrestlingobserver.com. We're going to get to emails and phone calls throughout these 2 hours. So you can join us. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of Wrestling Observer Newsletter, with Bryan Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly, and we're here every Sunday night, 8 to 10 Eastern Time, 5 to 7 Pacific Time, on the Sports Byline Radio Network with Wrestling Observer Live. And you can join us at 1-800-878-PLAY, or you can email us at dave@wrestlingobserver.com. We still have a couple lines available. We've got a couple of lines lit up, and we will get to phone calls in just a couple of minutes. I guess one of the things that we should probably talk about is on Tuesday, or on Wednesday, right before the TNA pay-per-view, a couple hours actually, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Jerry Jarrett, he didn't collapse, but he fell back in his chair, and his heart was racing, and he was rushed to the hospital. And he's still in the hospital as we speak right now. Just wanted to wish the best, just wanted to wish the best to Jeff and Jerry Jarrett because they got quite an undertaking coming up with this television thing starting. I've been racking my brain trying to come up with an upside to this. And, if we had Vegas odds on this thing, when they started 2 years ago, the odds were certainly against them of succeeding, and whether they've succeeded or not is, I guess, a definition of what you consider succeeded. Because they've never, the TNA product, it really never hit big enough. I don't think it's ever been profitable or anything like that. I know it hasn't. They originally were going to do this thing without television. That was the big thing that they thought, no, we would do it without the expense of television. And the question was, how do you get people to buy pay-per-view every week unless there's without television? And the answer was you didn't get enough people to buy pay-per-view. They were hoping to do 50,000 buys a week, and I think we're at about 6,000 to 8,000. So it didn't work, but they're still around, largely because of Panda Entertainment. And, Panda Entertainment, the deal is that they see those WWE balance sheets. And, Brian, we know we see those things every quarter or so, and they're really impressive. But I don't know that, there were two companies and more than that many companies for a long time, but it's been so long since somebody started from scratch and was truly profitable on a big time basis. And obviously you need TV. They got to put their foot in the water with the TV, but boy, I just think I'm scared to death for them. That's all I could say.
Well, the thing is, when they originally proposed creating TNA, they had this business plan. And I think that everybody that saw the business plan knew that there was no way that it could work. And the business plan, as they originally formulated it, did not work. Like you said, they're alive now because of Panda. And when I look at this new plan and what they're going to do with TV, and they're going to purchase a TV and hope this and that and the other thing, I look at it the same way that there's almost no hope. And I'm just wondering, what's going to step in this time, or how long is Panda going to hold them afloat, or how long is this deal going to work? And the way that I look at it now, I see they're going to do 24 weeks of TV, and that will be the end. And I could be totally wrong, but who knows? And I felt bad too because I was interviewed for that paper a week ago, and they were asking me all these questions, and it was everything I answered was so gloom and doom, but it wasn't like I was trying to be negative or trying to be mean. It was just like I cannot see any hope.
I've talked to several of the people in the company in the last week, and I just ask them, convince me. How is this going to work? And I don't see a chance. The wrestling business is so tough right now. And then they're talking about doing house shows. It's like, Vince McMahon with all those stars and all that TV, they're struggling at house shows. Going out there and doing house shows, the whole thing is that I think that, they're going to be around as long as Panda thinks that they're viable, and who knows what that will be. I hope that the people at Panda are looking at this with the idea that this TV is the foot in the water, and that we're in this thing for the long term, like 5 or 10 years, and this is just step one of a long process. If they think that this is the end of the process, and that the pay-per-view numbers will start going up or doubling or significantly increasing with this TV, they're going to get disappointed very quickly.
Yeah. And I even look at, if you look at, Women of Wrestling, how they try to do the syndicated TV and everything like that, and that was a failure. To me, I would think it would be better off for TNA to, buy their weekly TV and use those 4 weeks of TV to try to build up to $134.95 pay-per-view a month. as opposed to their plan right now, which is to buy the TV, still run the money-losing weekly pay-per-views. And, I mean, to me, it's just like you're going to lose money either way. But this seems like you're going to be losing money a hell of a lot faster with this plan than with, the other horrible plan.
Well, I mean, I think the whole idea of why they're doing these weekly shows is because it's on paper, 25,000 buys a week, let's say, is break even. I don't know if that's the exact number, but it's pretty close, 20 to 25,000. In theory, you go in there and go 20,000 people is not that many people when you have a big television audience and blah, blah, blah. And you've got the whole country to draw from, but for whatever reason, I mean, that's the same thing with UFC as well. I mean, I think that their whole thing was 100,000 people when we have 50 million, potential pay-per-view homes, let's say. How hard is that? But what we find out is it's really hard.
Yeah. And when you really look at it, it's like, you've got these weekly pay-per-views every single week, and you've got weekly TV. So it's almost like one of them is unnecessary.
And you've got...
Is the weekly TV going to be completely different? Are you never going to show any clips of pay-per-view? Because if you show any pay-per-view clips, then people don't have to buy the pay-per-view.
I don't think they're going to show much in the way. I think it's going to be a television show, but they have to show some clips. I mean, finishes when they're building up returns. You would think.
No, but if you do that, it's like, I don't know. To me, it's like it almost makes buying the pay-per-views pointless if you can just wait a week and see what happens.
Yeah. The other problem is just the ante. This is what's really, killed wrestling, and that is that big period that we had when Bischoff and Vince McMahon were spending so much money on their TV, and we had so many stars, and everyone got spoiled to this is what Major League Wrestling looks like. And, like before, I think that a lot of people were, I wouldn't say, there weren't like a million people, but there were a lot of people who were quite willing to watch good, low-budget wrestling, because they didn't see it as low-budget wrestling. I mean, like, aside from the people who only wanted to watch WWE, or, and now, I think that the first thing people see when they see TNA, if they do see it, is they think low budget and it's just not worth, getting involved in. And that's one of the reasons why, after 2 years, they're no further along. In fact, I think that their name is established a little more, but I think that they're actually, further in the hole, so to speak, than they were week one when they started. Because when week one when they started, there was some hype going into that first week.
Well, there was some hype.
I think there was more hype going into the first week than there is into this TV.
Yeah, people were excited to see it, and WCW dying was still fresh in people's minds, and they were, they wanted to see another number 2 or whatever, and there was just so much excitement. And now it's like, I think that most hardcore wrestling fans have bought at least one show. And the fact that they are still only getting 6,000 to 8,000 buys a month means that even those that tried it and didn't like it, they're not going to try it again. I mean, it's out in people's minds what it is.
Yeah, I think one of the keys is that the week that they had the one penny show, and then they came back from it, and there were a lot of people who sampled it for a penny. And they gave them their, best foot forward, so to speak. I mean, they gave them good stuff. And, for us, we thought it was good stuff. But for most people, I think that they just, I don't know these guys. And that was the answer. It's like, great matches, but if I don't know the guy. I think a lot of people, if they don't know the guys, they can come off the top of the cage and it really doesn't matter to them.
Yeah.
Anyway, we are going to go ahead and do a break right now. You can join us at 1-800-878-PLAY, or you can email us at dave@wrestlingobserver.com. We'll start to get the phone calls right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Hey, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter. It's Bryan Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. We've got a bunch of emails in here and a couple of callers. But anyway, you can email us at dave@wrestlingobserver.com. You can call us at 1-800-878-PLAY. We are going to go to the phones and start with Jeff in New York City. Jeff, what's happening?
Hey, what's going on?
Not too much.
All right, I got a question for you. I was watching the tape of the U.S. Championships on ESPN. I didn't realize it was taped though, and it was kind of shocking.
The show on Friday night?
Yeah.
Kind
of shocking to see Sanderson lose so decisively.
Lee Fullhart, yeah. I haven't heard they they had a 2 out of 3 rematch today for the berth on the Olympic team, and I haven't heard how it went yet. So, well, I should be over by now because they started the wrestling this morning. But yeah, that was Sanderson had beaten Fullhard several times before. I don't know if that's the first time Fullhard had beaten him. I think it was though. In that match.
Yeah, I haven't heard him losing before to him then since that day. But I had a question relating to another guy that I think of when I think of Sanderson, Danny Hodge. Mm-hmm. I know he lost 5 times to foreign Olympic champions, but has he ever lost qualifying for at any match? Has he ever lost for qualifying for the Olympics? Right.
No, because he made the Olympic team in '52. And then in '56, he beat everybody. And if he would have lost matches, they would have been when he was very young. Because I know from '52 on, he only lost 1 match, and that was the Olympic gold medal match that he was winning. And it was that very controversial pin called against him when the other guy wasn't even touching him. He was like just rolling through to do a move or something. Something very strange. But it was. I just remember that it was considered like the most controversial pinfall in an Olympic match, but he dominated everyone, and in Olympic qualifying, he never lost a match. There weren't as many people that went out for wrestling in those days as there is now, and I don't think it was as competitive. Some people will argue that, but I don't think it was as competitive then. But that's not to take anything away from him because. Danny Hodge was just like one of those guys who was like a freak. He's just like, Bryan, We were at Cauliflower Alley
I will confirm
a couple of weeks ago, and there was a jiu-jitsu guy, in fact, Steve Scarpius, who's fought in King of the Cage before. And, Danny's 71 years old now, and looks like a 71-year-old man. And he went up to Danny, and he just goes, I wanted to just, they want to meet you, kind of like, I just want to show you, because he's, a jiu-jitsu guy, and just, the modern techniques of submissions and things like that.
And what an idiot, by the way. I just like to insert that in the beginning.
So he wasn't there like challenging him or anything like that, but he was just, trying to show him like new moves and everything like that, like updated moves, so to speak. And because the sport has been, updated like crazy in the last 10 years, and every time he tried something, Danny, stretched him and made him tap. He's just, what can I say about Danny Hodge?
Unbelievable.
Yeah, Danny Hodge is unbelievable, yeah. I mean, among wrestlers, like, you talk about Danny Hodge and they're all like, everyone's in awe of him. I mean,
And scared.
What?
And scared.
More in awe, because he's not I think that if they had to go against him head up for real, they'd be scared, but, more in awe. And I mean, even like, I remember like Jeff Blatnick, who was much, Olympic gold medalist and everything like that, and when me and him talked about Danny Hodge, I mean, he had the same reverence for Danny Hodge that the pro wrestlers had. Just about like, think about the grip strength it takes to break pliers with your bare hands. I mean, I've never, and he can still do that. People bringing him pliers at the NCAA championships, a couple months back, and he was still breaking them, so he still got the grip.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Don't mess with him.
Yes, I'm not mess with Danny Hodge. Not only that, but he was a good boxer too.
Yeah, he's undefeated in amateur boxing.
Undefeated in amateur. He ended up getting, beaten in pro. I think he was challenging. I don't know a lot about his pro boxing career. I think he got all the way up to challenging for a championship match, and then, then he got beat pretty handily, and that was the end of his boxing career. And then he went into professional wrestling after professional boxing.
Something else.
So, anything else, Jeff?
Yeah, I'm going to try to make these 2 quick questions real quick. The other, I think it was last week, I was watching Around the Horn, and they were talking about, what's his name? I lost the name of the boxer.
Mike Tyson?
No. This is last week. I think it was last week or a week before. Everyone was talking about how he went down. Get his name right now. I don't know. Well, I guess the point is that...
do you mean Vern Forrest and... not Vern Forrest. What am I talking about? I mean, Roy Jones Jr.?
Yeah, Roy Jones Jr. I'm sorry. Yeah, Roy Jones Jr.
We're really talking pro wrestling now.
No, it kind of goes into MMA because they were talking about how, because of this one match, that his reputation has been tarnished. I think even the announcers are saying how this has really hurt him. But I was kind of comparing it to MMA, where just because you lose a match doesn't mean that you're a lesser of a person. Because anyone can get knocked out at any time. So I was wondering, what's your opinion on that in terms of relating MMA to boxing? Where, I mean, is it the same type of thing? Where
the thing is, watching the top level boxers. When you really get that top level, everyone does lose. Like the unbeatable boxer. In the old days when I was a kid, there were a lot of boxers that were unbeatable, but what they did was they fattened their records up. They would beat 38 guys, but, most of them wouldn't even be really good boxers, so it was just to build up winning streaks. When the top guys fight the top guys, in mixed martial arts, of course, there's so many different ways to lose that sooner or later everyone will lose. In boxing, in theory, the more skilled guy in boxing should be able to win, because there's not so many elements as mixed martial arts. However, you have your good days, you have your bad days, there's different styles. Some guy's hungrier than you and trains harder than you. No one's going to go unbeaten. And to me, because Tarver knocked out Roy Jones, Roy Jones should still be a legend in boxing. I think that it's a certain mentality. I think that in the boxing game that one loss and then everybody starts forgetting about you because your invincibility's gone. And Roy Jones had that thing going for him. He was considered Superman, but everybody sooner or later, there's going to be a kryptonite for every Superman. I think. Yeah.
Okay. My last question is concerning the main event from Judgment Day. I wrote a little snippet, just some feedback about it, and I was kind of really unimpressed. I mean, I respect what Eddie Guerrero was trying to do, but I kind of said, well, this match to me was decent at best, and for me, just the more blood doesn't mean that it's a great match. I mean, I just don't think that he's main event material. I want to see a match.
Eddie Guerrero or Bradshaw?
No, not Eddie Guerrero. Bradshaw. I mean, a guy like Eddie Guerrero with his talent, and he bled like crazy. And to me, the match was not. I mean, was decent. It was good. It was not bad. But I mean, Bradshaw can be a main eventer every month. I just don't buy it. This doesn't have the.
Well, here's my thoughts on Bradshaw are that I'm very impressed with what he's done, all things considered. The net, he was rushed into a spot from being a tag team guy that nobody really thought about, rushed into being a main eventer just because everybody else dropped out and they just needed somebody. And I think that he did a good job. He's not, the great wrestler that Kurt Angle was and Brock Lesnar was, and that you expect the WWE main eventer like a Shawn Michaels or, Benoit or Triple H. I mean, he's just not at that level. I think he did the best he could under trying circumstances, I guess would be the best way to put it. And I think that Eddie, a lot of the times when you see some, really crazy stuff, Mick Foley would tell you the same thing. When you see really crazy stuff like bleeding from you, or crazy bumps, it's because guys are scared of having a bad match. And I think that, Eddie knew that, he wasn't in the ring with Kurt Angle, and he needed to have a different kind of match, and that was what he did. And you can, I think that if you do it once, I mean, I don't like it because I saw that forehead, you know what I mean? And then you just go, oh my God. But nevertheless, it was quite a dramatic performance, and you can do that once in your career, or, once in a main event every now and then, and, I think it's effective. I mean, if you were to have matches like that on every pay-per-view, it would get old. And I've seen, companies that relied on blood like crazy, and in the long run, it never, it worked against them. I thought, I guess I'm, the best way to say it is, I think they did the best they could with what they had. They didn't have they didn't have what you're expecting in a WWE main event, and they don't have that. They don't have that on the SmackDown brand. That's one of the reasons why the brand is not doing well.
And the thing I'm concerned about is once this feud with Bradshaw's over, they've done nothing to build up anybody new for his slot.
I know it. It's really scary. You can think of like what goes next. I know.
And they've made this mistake 100 times in the last year, so.
Yeah. Anyway, we got to go ahead to a break. Thanks very much, Jeff. You can give us a call at 1-800-878-PLAY or email us at dave@wrestlingobserver.com. We'll get you a couple of emails when we come back, and we'll get back to the phone calls. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Hey, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter with Bryan Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. We've got a ton of emails here. Also, maybe there might be one left at 1-800-878-PLAY, and we'll get to the phones in just 1 second. This is from Richard Slater. I wonder if that's his real name. Richard Slater? I don't know. Of course, it was famous wrestler Dick Slater, who's, last I heard, was still in jail after domestic disturbance with his ex-girlfriend. Just want to get your say on a new product called WWE 24/7 On Demand that will give access to fans, classic wrestling matches from WWE, WWF, WCW, ECW. I'm very excited about this. I miss the days of wrestling, and you know when it'll start and what cable systems will carry it. I'm not sure exactly. Have they test marketed starting it yet, Bryan?
I don't think they've test marketed, but they did hire the guy to go around and try and get everything set up, so I think the first place you'll get it is the internet, obviously, and then they'll go from there.
Yeah, they're trying to get it through cable TV stations, and the idea would be somewhere between $6 and $9 a month, and then you would get 20 hours of old tapes. Someone told me that they were going to open with like an Andre the Giant special, like they're all going to be themes, you know, and then maybe I heard a Junkyard Dog theme show. Yeah. That's kind of like the ideas that I've heard on that. This is from Michael Parsons from Oxford, England, who says it's a 3 p.m. time slot beneficial with their current business model, weekly pay-per-views. They're going to put it on a strong pay-per-view for people to watch, a strong TV for people to watch 3 p.m., which theoretically will kill the marketing of their weekly pay-per-view, which is already on thin ground. I'll tell you, I hope that we can get, well, Mike Tenay is going to be on next week for sure, and maybe he'll have people explain this because, boy, I look at this, I look at what they're doing, and it just scares me to death. And then he goes, what would you do with TNA in their current situation, both business and creative, if you were in control of the company? Well, I mean, I think it's pretty clear, that if it was me, I wouldn't have started. Because when they started, I was very skeptical. And I thought that they would do, as far as weekly numbers, I thought they would do better than they are doing. With the talent the way it is and the interest in wrestling the way it is, I couldn't start. I don't think that. I mean, I couldn't start something and compete with WWE. I think unless you've got Ted Turner behind you or Fox Network behind you, and they're going, we're going to compete and we're going to get Bill Goldberg and we're going to get Steve Austin and we're going to lose money and we're going to build a brand in 5 years. And, we can get access to every star and we can bid for, bid for guys when WWE's contracts are up because we're really going to spend money. Yes, then I could see doing it and then do, fight for talent and get the real high, the real high-tech television, build for pay-per-views with new guys and old guys, because you got, old superstars. You can make new superstars with them, like a Bryan Danielson type of guys, hopefully.
So with all that said, if this guy...
The new talent is thin. It's not like... it's not like when Paul Heyman and WCW... Remember when in like 95, 96, when WCW brought in like all the, Chris Jericho, Chris Benoit, Rey Mysterio, Juventud Guerrero. I mean, there was all that talent all over the world in styles that nobody had ever seen. There was so much untapped potential in the mid-90s for talent. And, I mean, I watch all the tapes, and, I mean, where's the Eddie Guerrero? You know what I mean?
Okay, so here's the question. Was it the new style that they brought in, or was it the new faces?
Hey, what do you mean by that?
That actually, they brought in Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero and Chris Jericho and everything. Those guys were all awesome. But was it because they were wrestling a style that nobody had ever seen, or was it because they were awesome?
Well, it depends on the guy.
There's untapped
it was both
all over the world that nobody in America has seen right now.
It was both, and the new style. I'd say more the new style would be like when Rey Mysterio Jr. first came in. Because that was a style that nobody in the United States had ever seen unless they'd watched AAA tapes.
Okay, so here's a question.
Yes.
If you look at like the TNA shows now, and they do the X Cup, and they have the Team Mexico out there,
Yes.
who were originally hated. Now they're loved. Are they loved because of the style that they work, that it's something somewhat revolutionary that these people have never seen before? If so, what about bringing in a bunch of Ultimo Guerreros and Shockers and
I don't think that appeals past the Latin American community. Now I think that you could bring them in. You know, I mean, you could bring a lucha promotion in, and you know, I think a lucha promotion probably has the best shot of making it, if anything does, as far as like a viable alternative to when it comes to work pro wrestling. Just because there is an audience in this country that will support them intermittently. You know, I mean, they did okay in Atlanta. You know, and I mean, I know that they could do well. You know, in small doses if they don't get out of control and everything like that, and try to run too many shows. But as far as breaking them through, if you had like those guys on the undercard,
like WCW,
like what they did, and eventually. Like you kind of kept them strong and you didn't embarrass them like WCW did, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that in time, like Chris Benoit, Chris Benoit didn't have a lot of charisma. He grew on people and they respected him. Eddie Guerrero grew on people and they respected him. Some of those guys, I don't know that they get as big as those guys, but in time, if you're a great worker, you can get over. But you can't do it with. Them by themselves, no.
Maybe not like a pure promotion, but like you said, a promotion where you've got some great lucha talent. The reason I bring up lucha talent is because it's something that really, I mean, aside from Ray doing a few spots here or there in Tajiri, you don't really see it.
I mean, you don't see lucha style anymore. Because WWE doesn't like the style.
Yeah. So that's an opening right there for another group. But the thing is with like TNA, we mentioned this a million times. They've got some of these guys there, but and they rely on these guys to sell taped pay-per-views. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Next week's show is taped, and they have faith that all these hardcores are going to buy this because of what is being presented on this taped pay-per-view. Yet they don't give that sort of thing every single week for obvious reasons.
Yeah,
and that's part of the problem.
Yeah, we've talked about that. Let's go to Jonathan in Savannah, Georgia. Jonathan, what's happening? Hello.
What's going on, Dave? Brian?
Not much.
I have a couple questions for you about SmackDown, unfortunately. My first question is, watching this past week's show and the previous shows within the past couple, the last 6 months or so, and I just don't understand, and I'm probably not the only one, but I don't understand what the deal is with guys that seem to be, it seems to me that guys that seem to be over don't get pushed, but guys who aren't over get pushed. And I don't understand the logic behind.
Well, who do you consider not over that's getting pushed?
Layfield.
Layfield.
Rene Dupree.
Who'd you say?
Rene Dupree.
Rene Dupree is a project because he's 20 years old.
But, I mean, that's the thing is, he's going to be around for a while, so why not use, the guys that I would think of...
I think that in the case of Rene Dupree, I think that they think that he's going to be, I don't know about a superstar, but he's going to be a big star, and they want to get him over as a star now. At 20 years old, and they got a long time with him, and think that, if he improves really, a lot, and he's already at the level he's at, I think they're high on him, just like Randy Orton, who was obviously pushed before he was ready to be pushed, but the thought was he's going to be a big star in 5 years. So I think that's the deal with Rene Dupree with Bradshaw. They were in a hole. I mean, they had no main eventers, and they decided to recreate a character and make him a main eventer, and it's pretty hard. And the guy isn't obviously main event caliber worker. So they went and it's an experiment. And the problem is that again, for an opponent for Eddie Guerrero, because I was thinking about this. If you had an opponent for Eddie Guerrero, you could say Booker T, or you could have turned Rob Van Dam, or you could have put Cena against him, but I don't think that that's what they want, and you could put Undertaker against him, and I know that's not what they want. So they were left with no good alternative, and this is the bad alternative that they took, knowing, and it may have been the best of all the bad alternatives. I don't know. I mean, buy rate wise, they were going to do bad anyway. They lost too much talent.
True. I mean, like, why don't they even use like a guy like Rey Mysterio? Who, I mean, like,
they should obviously.
He had, like,
they should use Rey Mysterio better. We all know that.
Like, what's the deal? I mean, like, I know he's small, but you got to be kidding me, like.
Well, I mean, he was in the main event on SmackDown just this last week.
Yeah, but recently I know whatever he had, like, he was out for a while with, I don't know, some sort of.
When he dizzy spells.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, before he was working like Velocity or whatever, like.
Yeah, no, I mean, they don't really have an idea of a personal program for him. I mean, they've done him and Van Damme against the Dudleys for now. They're not really pushing the cruiserweight division, as you can tell. In fact, they're ruining the cruiserweight division because they could always, you could always plug him in there with Chavo and have him beat Chavo. But I think that then again, like, what's new there? I mean, what's he going to fight against Jamie Noble or Nunzio or these guys? I mean, that's kind of not really going to get him over either right now.
We didn't even talk about the new Cruiserweight champion.
Chavo Classic.
Oh, yeah, Chavo Classic. I mean, I don't know. It was humorous to watch it. You know, I mean, when I first heard about it, I was just, like, really down on it, okay? When I actually saw it, I thought it was, like, entertaining, but still completely stupid and something where, it's one of those ideas, again, where, it's like, wow, this is a really funny idea. Now let's never do it.
Yeah. Well, to me, it's almost like I would have been much more upset 2 weeks ago, but after Jackie got it, I don't even care anymore.
Yeah, but to me, that only makes it worse because you can do it once.
I think
you can do ha-ha once, but now they've done ha-ha twice in a row.
Yeah.
So I mean, it just totally makes that belt into a joke. I mean, I think that I think this was, I mean. I thought this was almost. They were both bad. I don't want to say that this was worse than the first one. The one with Jackie was really worse, but just you shouldn't be doing it again, ever. Let alone a couple weeks later.
Yeah. Do you see anyone that they can build up to be the heel against Eddie? Just with like the rating was what again this week? Like a 2.9. It was
9. Yeah, it was terrible.
I mean, like, is it not? Is the trend hasn't it been since Kurt became the general manager and since Layfield's been put in the main event? It's just gone down, right?
Absolutely. I mean,
nobody else sees that. Like,
everyone sees it.
Do they recognize that? Or?
Everyone sees it. Now, as far as Kurt goes, I'll tell you what. If it's my call on Kurt, I send him home. I don't put him.
Yeah, I mean, I have nothing against Kurt because Kurt's probably my favorite guy there.
Yeah, but it's time. I would have him rehab the injury and come back when he's ready, but I think him being on TV every week like this, I think it's going to hurt his comeback drastically. I mean, like, bad.
Yeah.
That when he does come back, people aren't even going to take him that seriously. And I don't think that, obviously I don't think he's great in this role. The role, he's a great performer, but this role is not the right role for him.
Okay, I got one quick one, real quick.
Okay, real quick.
Are there going to be any differences with Johnny Ace now in charge of, like, talent relations or whatever?
I'm sure there will.
They are?
Well, now, what they are, I can't tell you, but everyone's got different fingerprints and different ideas, but yeah, I'm sure there will.
Okay, all right.
All right, we'll be back with more right after this. You'll listen to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter. It's Bryan Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. We're going to get some phone calls right after the news, so we're going to take some emails until then, but you can call us at 1-800-878-PLAY, and should have some interesting calls at that point. This is from Jim Caldwell, who said, if Kurt Angle had to do it all over again, would he have opted for the Dr. Youngblood neck surgery instead of the surgery that he had? I've never heard Kurt Angle address that. And I think that if you actually asked him, he would probably know that he would do the one that he had because it got him back quicker. And I think that if you asked most of the WWE wrestlers right now, if they were going to go down with a neck surgery, would they take the option that Kurt Angle took or the one that Chris Benoit took? I think a lot of them would take the one that Chris Benoit took. There'd be some who wouldn't because the idea of coming back in 2 months instead of a year out, that year out was pretty torturous for, like Lita and Rhino and some of them. They just, it's really tough.
The thing with Angle, though, was his neck was screwed up so bad that I think that he would tell you that his 3 surgeries were all completely unrelated. He would say, the current damage is different from the previous damage. Yeah, this is not like the first one worked for a few months and then didn't work, and he had to fix it again.
I think that sort of did what happened in the first one. When he got hit by the chair, it in one of the matches, it basically ruined all of the work that the first one did.
Oh, great.
And then this last one, which was the one after WrestleMania, that's a different vertebrae. So I guess you could say that's unrelated. I'm sure it really is related in some form. Once once his neck's been bad. Long before he was in professional wrestling, he messed up his neck bad. In amateurs in '96.
Yeah.
So.
Which was really the beginning of the end, because once he survived that.
Yeah, it was the beginning of the end for him because, like we've talked about, the worst thing that happened was that he won the gold medal on it, so he stopped listening to the doctors.
Yep.
And he started thinking that he could do it. Even though they say you can't do it, you can do it. And
I think he said on SmackDown where he goes, I want a medal with a broken neck. You can get out here and wrestle tonight.
Yeah.
I think that's Kurt Angle there.
Yeah, but it's the last interview that he did, the one on TSN, the off-the-record thing, that was the first time I saw Kurt where he was recognizing it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could tell, like, all of a sudden it's like, wow, I may not be wrestling much longer, and kind of sad, like, when they start bringing up his legacy and everything, because it's like, Kurt could have been one of the all-time greats, and, I think he kind of acknowledged that there's a pretty good chance he's not going to make it just because he's not going to be around long enough.
Yeah.
This is from Richard, who says, what's the latest on the New Japan WWE partnership? And what footage will be available on DVD? I actually don't know, and I just noticed that we've got to get out of here. So we will be back right after this. You'll listen to Wrestling Observer on the Sports Byline Radio Network.
Welcome back to Hour 2 of the Wrestling Observer with Dave Meltzer and Bryan Alvarez.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Let's get it on!
Hey, welcome here to the second hour of Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, with Bryan Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly, and we've got some phone calls, a bunch of emails to get through, and if you want to join us, 1-800-878-PLAY. We've got a couple of lines available right now. This is from Richard, this is right before the break, who said, what's the latest on the New Japan WWE partnership, and what footage will be available on DVD? I don't know that there's anything or any partnership whatsoever. I know that the New Japan guys came to Judgment Day, and Brad Ringens and Y, and I forget who else was there. Hattori was there. But I don't think that there were any specific meetings about anything other than I think they were looking for photo ops to go back to Japan and say, hey, we're negotiating with WWE. And more, not really much of anything to it. Brian.
Yeah. Make a story out of it.
Yeah, so I don't know that there's anything. He goes, when will Pride have a major show in the United States with their major stars? We've heard that for years now that Pride was going to have a show in the United States. In Vegas, certainly there was March date, then there's September date, which I'm sure won't happen either. So I don't know. I think they're better off not coming.
Maybe when Inoki does his show.
What?
Maybe when Inoki does his show.
Yeah, Inoki's got a license here too, and he's got no. No one's asked for any dates other than K1's got another date in August, and then it's like I'm a fan of Josh Pro-Wrest, and what's the latest on Takako Inoue trying out for WWE? Of course, Monday. A week ago Monday, I think it was, right? No, it was Monday. No, this past Monday in San Diego, she got a dark tryout in front of the agents. I don't think she's going to get a position, but that's not for certain. They may if they come up with an idea for her. And then what about Ayako Hamada and Momoe Nakanishi? I don't think that anyone in WWE, or almost anyone, would even know who Ayako Hamada and Momoe Nakanishi are. If they saw them, Momoe, obviously Momoe's really, really good. If they saw them, they might like them. But then again, they might think that they wrestle Japanese style, and they don't want that style used. So who knows? You never know. I mean, after Ultimo Dragon, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, let's see. Is TNA going to go through with having a different type of ring, like Jeff Jarrett said, and won't that be a negative instead of a positive? Brian, I'll ask you. What are your thoughts on six-sided rings?
Not going to make one bit of difference.
No difference at all?
I really don't think so.
I mean, as far as wrestling, does it make a difference? I'm not talking about business. No, I know it doesn't make a difference.
Guys up, actually.
What?
I can see if the guys don't get in there and practice enough with it. I've never been in a six-sided ring, but I've seen enough guys that have a problem going from a ring with real ropes to a ring with cables, and enough guys that just have a problem with the ring just being a different size, whether it be 18 to 20 or 18 to 60.
Yeah, I've seen guys with problems with the size of the ring too.
Yeah.
So six-sided ring is going to have a whole bunch of
to it.
It's going to have problems at the beginning.
Yeah.
Anyway, we will be back with more right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter with Bryan Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. We're going to go to Steve in Las Vegas. Steve, what's going on?
Fine, Dave.
Is this who I think it is? It is, in fact.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And
talking about you in the first hour.
Yes. And I'll give a comment on the feud after I make this comment. Boxing and MMA is the only sports in the world where if you lose once, all of a sudden you're a fraud.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like Clemens can't give up 10 runs in one inning, and he's still Roger Clemens. But I mean, for goodness sakes, David Carradine didn't want to lose a fight to Chuck Norris in a movie 5 years after Kung Fu because of this idiocy. It's the only sport where you get branded backwards like that.
Yeah, and it's unfair because anyone can get knocked out.
Oh yeah, you only have to, that's why they're called mistakes. You only have to have dropped your hands once at the wrong time. Lumen knocked himself out, for goodness sakes.
Made fun of him.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's so many different things, and that mentality. But that's part of the Hulk Hogan, Bruno Sammartino, God on Earth, Rocky Marciano thing that that people have to get past. They say, look, this still is a sport. If it weren't a sport, I guess Crow Crop is the latest guy. Okay, he finally got, I didn't see that fight, but maybe he made a mistake. Maybe he dropped his hand at the wrong time. Maybe someone figured out that, this is a strategy. I get it.
They scouted him. They found something that he did, and they found an opening, and the guy hit him really hard, perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's people got to get over that. That there's no Superman, except just to give you guys a little more lowdown on the Denny Hodge thing. When I approached him, actually our feud goes back about 3 years. When I approached him with that stupid comment about 3 years ago, when I said, Mr. Hodge, I'd like you to come to L.A. one day early and watch a jiu-jitsu class and see what modern grappling is all about. The guy looked at me, he was 68 years old at the time, looked me straight in the eye and said, maybe I could teach you guys a few things or two. And I'm going like, oh, God, this guy is serious. But when we worked out, or I don't want to say worked out, but I basically fed him a couple of things, but he surprised me. I fed him, but at the same time, you could tell this guy knows what he was doing. I fed him a kimura because he asked for it, and I'm waiting to tap because my shoulder's going to hurt, and then he did something to my wrist. Then he's the one who said, hey, okay, go for a single leg, an amateur-style single leg, and he did some kind of other submission move. And then he showed some other submission things that was very interesting. For instance, he used a triangle choke with his arms with not the intention to choke me out, but to pin me, because that's what he used to do. But if I didn't pin myself, he would choke me out. And one final thing, the one jiu-jitsu thing that we did go, and I'm not trying to put myself over, because first of all, I never would have his back in the first place. I mean, that's a joke to ask for. But he went ahead, let me take his back. He says, okay, go for a choke. And I can't even tell you what he did to my legs, because I don't even know, which, I've been studying this stuff for 5 or 6 years, and we didn't have time. And so he definitely knows his stuff. I'm curious to know where submission wrestling went in North America, where the idea was to pin a person than to always be on top, and what their defenses would be for Brazilian-style stuff, but being for the fact that his wife was there and they needed to get dressed for the banquet. But I guarantee you the type of person he is, we would have been there for 3 or 4 hours in the hallway, and he would have been stretching me for 3 or 4 hours, showing me and teaching me. But the man is for real, and thank goodness he did to Chavo Classic a couple hours before, because I'd be embarrassed right now.
Grip.
Oh, his grip, but, you know, he's a smart guy, too. I says, okay, we're circling each other for takedowns, and, of course, we're not going for takedowns for real in the middle of a ballroom, but he showed a couple of things that, okay, this is what I would do, or this is how I would strike first, and when he had his quickness and all that, you could see, oh, my goodness, as far as takedown theory and all that. Now, as far as what his defenses for a guard would be, or what his defenses for this or that, I don't think you would get him in those positions in the first place to get that far. But I'd be really curious to see what went on, because I could go back to another submission expert, Gene LaBelle, who knows every trick in the book with legs and leg locks and all this kind of thing. But, what he knows, I would love to know what Stu Hart actually, I would like to know what they were learning in the early 1900s that went to him, because by the time a lot of the submission stuff went to Denny Hodge, it was like, okay, here's the triangle choke, but it's not meant to choke me out, it's meant to pin me. And there's a lot of interesting stuff, and I could go 10 hours with him and gladly pay $100 an hour to just soak up all the stuff that he knows.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he must have been, he must have been unbelievable in his day, though.
Oh, in his day, forget it. On that day, I mean, I just, Chavo Sr. knew enough to not take anything any further, because, and a term that, an expression, I don't know if Les Thatcher said it or someone else, who would you rather have with you, in a fight, a college football player or a college wrestler? And I'll put it this way: who would you rather have with you in a fight situation or a tough situation, a 70-year-old boxer or a 70-year-old wrestler? And he kind of answers that question. That freaky strong and freaky intelligent. I mean, and it's just. He'd say he would say in his day, you'd stay out of his weight class, and I'll stay out of his weight class right now. Just tell me how much he weighs, and I'll I'll gain or lose. But
okay, anything else, Steve?
No, that's about it. That I think that the MMA audience has matured a little bit to the effect that when Mark Coleman lost his fight to Pete Williams, got kicked in the head, no one said, Mark Coleman's a stiff, he's a loser, he's this. You know what they were saying? How stupid can he be? He made the same mistake he made. No one called him a wimp. Everyone called him stupid because he made the same mistakes he made against Maurice Smith. Mm. And so the audience is maturing. I don't know how long it's going to take before they realize that MMA is better than boxing or whatever, but that's only for time to tell.
You got to remember that they're bucking 100 years of tradition in sport. You know what I mean? That's a long fight to create a sport that is accepted by people as a sport. Because let's face it. I mean, the boxing matches are still in all the newspapers and the UFC. Even if the UFC show, and I mean the early ones did big buy rates, but let's just say that somehow Randy Couture and Vitor Belfort got tons of interest, and it wouldn't, but let's say it did, and did the 360,000 buys that Roy Jones did, it still ain't going to make the newspapers, and that's, when you can do that and make the newspapers, that's not a guarantee you're going to make it either, because women's soccer was all over the newspapers, when they had that league, and they were losing money hand over fist, and they didn't really, make it.
Well, they didn't get any real press till what's-her-name took her shirt off.
Yeah, but the league started after that, Brandy Chastain, yeah. No, but the professional league, and I mean, they had Mia Hamm, and they had people who were real celebrities, but ultimately, people weren't going to spend money, and they weren't going to watch television. I mean, their TV ratings, they were doing, I forget what, 0.2s and 0.3s, and that was on good stations, at the beginning, because I think they were on the Turner networks at first. I think. Anyway, I didn't follow it that close. I could be completely wrong about this, by the way. But anyway.
I've subbed at high schools, and the subject of MMA, a lot of kids know who Shamrock is. A lot of kids know who, Vitor Belfort is and all that. I mean, it's a start. I don't know.
It's a start, and they have made tremendous strides in the last couple of years as far as, before, you would read the newspaper stories about it, and it was all cockfight and this and that. And now you read the stories, especially, I tell you where, in the Portland Tribune. The Portland Tribune does an awesome job of covering MMA, because I think that's because it's Randy Couture's hometown, and Randy, Randy's a great rep for this thing.
And the publisher loves MMA.
What?
And the publisher loves MMA.
Oh, he does? I didn't know that. Yeah. Well, there's another answer, because I'm sure a lot of publishers hate MMA and don't want you to cover it. But if the Randy thing, I feel really bad, because the Randy thing was such a great story, but it didn't click with the sports world. You know what I mean? I thought, man, this story's awesome, but I thought it, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, well, it's kind of tough, because the kind of personality to be on the top level as an MMA guy is, I think, you've got to be intelligent and dedicated and all that. And when you reach that level of grappling with people, you learn to respect other people and all that. So you don't try to dog them. You don't try to get, and that makes for a boring personality.
Yeah.
And that's a kind of tough thing. I mean, I knew Tito Ortiz drew the ratings, but I knew he was going to lose sooner or later, because there's only a certain level his lack of respect for other people and wearing the belt backwards and all that is going to take him. To be the best, you either learn to respect other people like Hodge or, anyone who's got anything to teach to you and humbles you. You either got to get humbled or you're not going to become that championship level. But if you're that type of personality, you're not Mr. Marketable either.
Yeah, okay, Steve, thanks very much. We'll be back with more right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter. It's Bryan Alvarez, Figure 4 Weekly. If you don't subscribe to either the Wrestling Observer Newsletter or Figure 4 Weekly and you want information, you go to www.wrestlingobserver.com. We've got, up on the site, we've got information on how to get issues of both of them. Latest issue of the Observer has have you got the Observer yet this week?
I haven't yet, no.
Oh, God. I always ask you on the ones that I really like. I really like this issue because of the story on Pepper Gomez, which is kind of funny because I've gotten, no feedback of it. It's one of my favorite stories of the year. So I think that maybe just too far back in time, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, because usually the obituaries do well.
I think that they do well if it's someone who's more of a current figure.
Yeah.
Or someone who current fans kind of have a mystique about, say the Sheik or somebody like that, or Luthez. But Pepper was a big star, but it was a long time ago. I mean, it's funny because I added some story and everything. Out here, there are a lot of people who really know that name and stuff, but it was really a long time ago. I mean, it was I was a little kid, and Pepper's best stuff was before I ever watched wrestling.
Yeah.
But when researching it, I just found it really fascinating. And I saw what you wrote about it and everything like that. The bodybuilding and the things like that. He was just a lot of interesting things about him. But anyway, let's go to Mitch in Berkeley, who may have grown up watching Pepper Gomez. If you're in Berkeley, did you?
I didn't hear you. I didn't hear the question.
Did you ever see Pepper Gomez?
No, I'm 27.
He started.
Have you ever heard of Pepper Gomez?
What?
I've absolutely heard of him.
Yeah.
Because when I got into wrestling in the early 80s, I'm just a white suburbanite turned Berkeley liberal. My mother referred to wrestling as quote-unquote big-time wrestling, and I didn't learn what that meant until just about 5 years ago.
Yeah, that was the name of the TV show on Channel 44 and Channel 40 in Sacramento.
Right, and I thought, because she used that the way Levi's are used synonymously with jeans as wrestling, and I just thought she just meant big-time wrestling means pro wrestling, and I didn't think twice about it until I got older.
Yeah.
I've definitely heard of him and seen some stuff of him, but have not delved into the archives and been a fan per se.
Yeah, I think it's just too far back. for a lot of the current audience?
Ray Stevens definitely crossed over to me because when I was a kid in '86, I went to that big show, and at the time AWA was pumping up, and they were pumping him up for that big show that I went to at the Cow Palace where they did that Kurt Hennig screw job.
Kurt Hennig, Nick Bockwinkel match, right. Right, I was at that match.
So that was about as close as I got to it.
Yeah, that was long after. That wasn't the Ray Stevens that everybody talks about.
Absolutely not. But it let me know that who he was, and when I would say that name to people, uncles and older, folks, elders, they would know who I was talking about.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's kind of an anticlimactic answer to that question for representing the Big Bay Area here.
Yeah. So anyway, what's going on today?
So I just want to talk about the WWE.
Sure.
And it's so wild to me how, first of all, I'm just happy that we have two different brands because it's great that one brand can be down and one can be up, kind of like how it was different when you guys were talking about the Kane necrophilia thing. That was terrible. And another thing that was terrible, I was thinking about how good Raw is now, and I was trying to think of things I hated, was when they did that awful Hogan-Undertaker country whipping angle a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That was another all-time low. So I don't feel as terrible about SmackDown. I certainly don't love it. And I totally agree with you. I'm not completely against the Layfield angle. I think he's a great heel, and I thought that the match was, as good as it could have been. I just think you're right. It's just too much too soon. But as far as him going from what he was to what he is, it's definitely good, and I definitely think he deserves credit for that.
Yeah, but
part of the problem I think with SmackDown is that Raw is so good.
No. Also, SmackDown's bad.
You see the contrast between the two shows, and it makes SmackDown actually seem a lot worse than it probably really is.
I disagree because, last week's SmackDown, last Thursday SmackDown was an okay show, but there have been SmackDown shows of late that, I watched it and I was just like, wow, this is really bad. And
but I don't think that you would see it as being quite so bad if Raw
I don't judge like one against the standards of the other. You may be right. If Raw was like really horrible, maybe SmackDown wouldn't be so horrible. But there were weeks where I was, it was like you're watching Thunder almost.
Right, and there were times too.
Last week, though,
comparing them to each other, there were times too when WWE or WWF and WCW would have a hot week together, and it would be just like multiple orgasmic wrestling fan. And if WCW got bad in the end, I didn't always compare it. I just quit watching it and just watched WWF.
Yeah, well, you and most of the nation.
So I had a few more questions, and that was, where are they going? Is the July pay-per-view a Raw pay-per-view, I assume?
Yeah, July 11th is Raw, yeah.
Okay, so what are they going to do? Are they going to treat us to like a HBK, Benoit, Iron Man, or ladder or something? Do you know where they're going, Dave?
No, I don't know where they're going.
Where would you go?
Now you mentioned that.
we haven't done the singles match with the pinfall yet. Because they did the DQ finish, so you still got that out there. They ain't the worst match in the world, but they.
They're tied 1-1, aren't they?
Yeah, I don't know if that would be big business, but it would be a fantastic match.
I want to.
And there's nothing they're going to. Let's be serious. There's nothing that's going to do big business short of Steve Austin and The Rock wrestling at this point, anyway. So
right.
Yeah, that wouldn't be too bad.
What do you see for SummerSlam for both brands? Like, where are they going to go after Lace?
Benoit Triple H.
Is H really going to get the title then, or are they going to stretch it?
I would think he's going to get it. It's up to him.
Right.
Wait
till SummerSlam and give Benoit a little more time. I also wish that instead of Kane next month, we got just a 1-month match build up with him and Jericho, or him and Edge, or I guess they want to save Edge, but just somebody that would be a good match, even if it's just a short feud.
I would have liked to have seen Jericho. Would have been a better match, but the reports that I've gotten on the Kane matches, at the house shows have been all good. So.
Really?
Yeah, and which is funny because I wasn't really looking forward to that, but I've heard that they interact pretty well now.
Is it an angle that will somehow put Matt Hardy involved in a main event thing, or is he going to get buried again?
Matt Hardy's screwed. That's all I can tell you. Every time I watch him in the last couple of months, and especially now,
it's because of that book, isn't it?
I don't know. I always joke about it. I don't know what it is, but he's screwed. That's all I can say.
So do you see RVD turning?
I think that's a viable option, yeah.
Now, I would like to see Heyman and the Dudleys and RVD do some sort of faction, and it doesn't need to be ECW. People call in saying, are they going to do an ECW? Well, if SmackDown's this bad, do you really want them to take those guys and start a third brand? You know, I mean, it's just ridiculous. But
well, I mean, Paul Heyman managing RVD against Eddie Guerrero, I think that could be all right. I mean, because Van Dam is going to need, he's going to need someone to talk for him. And I mean, the one thing, I mean, Heyman knows what to say, and more he knows how to say it. And they've got the association. And hopefully he can, light a fire and make, people believe in Van Dam. Because the people respect Van Dam, but he's kind of, the last couple of years he's just been kind of languished in a lot of ways.
Well, he also just has kind of the same routine every time. But on the other hand, he is a hard worker, and it's great that we live in a world where, this year's WrestleMania. God, I sound like an idiot. We live in a world. But this year's WrestleMania, where Benoit and Guerrero, guys that don't necessarily have, the entire package that guys in the past had, the Hulk Hogan to the 80s, and they're there hugging at the end of the main event, and people are totally digging it just the way they dug the Angle Benoit Royal Rumble match 2003. So maybe in a couple years, if they can really get a hot streak for RVD, he could kind of maybe not come up to that level, but at least be somewhere in the ballpark. Do you think?
Not at that level, but he can be a. If they would have done it right with him when he first came in 2001.
Right, he was hot then.
Yeah, because the people really wanted him to be a star, and they didn't catch on, and I think there was a little bit of ECW jealousy.
And they blew that entire. I mean, that's just the invasion angle that was blown that I can't wait to read in the book. I'm not up to that part yet.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, what's the gimmick they're going to use for Guerrero and Bradshaw next month?
I don't know, but I figured they'll do some stipulation. Yeah, I don't know what it is, though.
My sense is it won't be a cage because they're doing the Hell in the Cell match.
Yeah, I think that would be overkill. That's the thing is it's going to be really hard because you've got the Hell in the Cell 2 weeks earlier.
Right, and people are going to be over.
Whatever you come back with is going to almost feel like it's a weak gimmick after the Hell in the Cell.
Especially if you're pushing brutal feuds.
Yeah, so I feel sorry for, I felt sorry for them having to do that match because I assumed that the buy rate wasn't going to be that big for last week, but I think it's going to be much tougher the second time than the first time.
And as like a co-mid-main event for the SmackDown thing, if they're kind of pushing the Dudleys, why don't they put the belts on those guys?
Oh, well, they may.
I'd like to see those guys, RVD and Mysterio, in some sort of, just some sort of huge tag match, and then maybe the next night after the pay-per-view have RVD turn on, in the entire faction against Guerrero.
Well, I mean, it's certainly viable. Anyway, we got to get running, okay?
Guys, I hear the music, and like the Oscars, I'm out of here.
Okay, thanks very much, Mitch. We'll be back with more right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of Wrestling Observer Newsletter, with Bryan Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. We are going to go to Chuck in Detroit. Chuck, how are you? Hello there.
Hi.
How are you?
All right. Gotta pretty much want to hit on TNA. I talked to a couple of friends of mine, and we're all under the same impression that this 3 p.m. Friday, check your local listings now time slot is going to be pretty much the beginning of the end for the company because they're paying for the slot, and pay-per-view is not generating the necessary money that they need to be a viable number 2. Don't get me wrong, I like that it is an alternative. And I think they have some tremendous pieces of talent like AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, Ron Killings, America's Most Wanted, guys that could be used as the foundation for a good competitive number 2. But even though they do have a cash cow and Panda Energy behind them, still you need some income coming in order to be a viable number 2 with the WWE.
I agree with you. I hope, in the sense that they truly believe, or the people at Panda truly believe, that this is not a step that's going to start making them money, and that all of a sudden the pay-per-views are going to start doing better, and it's just a step that we're going to get on TV to lead to eventually improving the TV situation. But even then. Even if you throw out like trying to improve the pay-per-view and we're just doing it to improve the TV situation, that's a long shot too. going from paid programming, and like if their ideas, they'll go in there and do decent numbers, but I'm sure they'll do decent numbers for that time slot on a Fox Sports Net because they're going in, I'm sure whatever's in there doesn't do anything, right? I'm sure they'll beat that. But are they going to do the kind of numbers that wow people enough to go, hey, we're going to put you on, primetime Monday night? And that's the stuff that you need, something like that. And I don't know. I'm just
The thing that's really that people seem to be looking past is the fact that they are shelling out more money. This is not like
tons more. Don't give yourself
to them.
Tons more. They're spending a lot of money right now.
And it's not just TV; it's travel, everything that goes along with it, buying rings, everything.
Promotion, paying wrestlers, travel every week,
ads.
Yep. So, and the TV time. So yeah, they're escalating their costs.
Company.
They're escalating their costs greatly, and they're not going to escalate their revenue at all, or very little. And it's scary when you look at it from that perspective.
And I really like what the pieces of talent that they have. I was pleased with the swerve that they did on the Wednesday pay-per-view with Ron Killing as the champion. That was a good change up there, even though Jeff Jarrett, he is going to get the belt back probably the Wednesday before the taping. I think that's a bad idea because I think Jeff Jarrett has he's now maximized his usefulness as the champion. He needs to now basically be riding on the shoulders of the AJ Styles, the Christopher Daniels, the Ron Killings. He can still occasionally be in that mix, but not as the focal point. I think that's another factor that's going to cause the TNA company to eventually go down because people don't see Jeff Jarrett as a top card guy.
I agree with you that Jeff is clearly not the guy that you can build around. He can be in the mix to a degree just because he's got a little bit of name value and knows how to work and everything, maybe. But their problems are just so much deeper than like who they like. If they push AJ Styles or Ron Killings or Chris Harris in that role instead of Jeff, I really don't think it's going to make any difference. I don't think that they're going to add anything because the other factors in place aren't there. And that's they're spending all this money. I don't know. I
don't think their audience is paying to see a champion. But I really don't know what they could do that their audience would pay for.
I don't know that you can. For one thing, I think that the weekly pay-per-view thing it just isn't going to work. I think that we've already seen that. Building to a monthly pay-per-view, maybe, but even so,
that's a money loser, but I think that's far less of a money loser than what they're doing now.
You're probably right. The only thing is that you're still talking about something that, if you're not WWE, you have to be, you have to look like WWE, or the masses just aren't going to go for you right now. That's why independent wrestling isn't flourishing. You can go to, the right independent card, obviously, when you have your Christopher Daniels, Bryan Danielson, those type of people. And, you could see some really great wrestling, okay? And, Bryan, you were king of indies. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, you can see it, it's there, but there aren't very many people who want to see it, and there's only your hardcore, and you can't run a national company based on those, on that number of people. It's not even close.
And a quick note on WWE, this brand extension, it's got to go because they have clearly shown in the 2 years that they've tried this that they have never hit the right formula. Either Raw has been good and SmackDown has been in the tank, or SmackDown has been good and Raw has been in the tank. They have shown clearly that they don't have the right formula to have both of these shows clicking on all cylinders, and that's why I think you saw the Backlash pay-per-view number come in lower than they thought, because people are not buying these two separate entities. They still see this as one WWE, and they're clearly backlashing, no pun intended, against the WWE because they see that this is not working.
I don't see them changing. And I don't know if they should because... they have enough guys where they can do enough dates. The house shows are profitable. The ratings are not. If you look at if you put them back together, would the ratings go up? Well, obviously the SmackDown numbers would go up from what they are right now. I don't know that the Raw numbers would be any higher, even with everyone together. They maybe, if they do it, and I'm not saying because I've always thought that there will come a day when, in fact, they will, because it will just be weak enough that they will have to. But it will come when the public is, clearly not buying one of the brands, and they have to. And we're not there yet. Now we may be there in 6 months. We may never, we may not be there for years.
Fans are clearly they're looking at SmackDown, and I'd rather watch TNA pay-per-view than watch SmackDown.
Well, the thing on that is that not enough people think that way.
And what do you think about this? Because TNA's newest
would die. TNA would die for the kind of audience SmackDown gets. And and it's not a knock on TNA. That's just, they've got that, they've got good TV time in their WWE.
Yeah, what's your opinion of TNA's newest sensation, Monty Brown?
He's got good look. When he first broke in, I thought he had potential, football player. Yeah, he needs a lot of work. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
He needs a lot.
Guys, thanks a lot.
Okay, you're very welcome. Let's go to Bob in Pacifica. Bob, are you there?
Dave.
Yes.
I'm the co-author of Gene Lavell's autobiography. I helped him put together his autobiography. I emailed you earlier today.
Yes, that's right.
And since you were talking so much with other callers about the old school grappling versus Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, I just thought I'd call in with my experience working with Gene.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a blue belt in Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and came into working with Gene with that. And of course, when I would be interviewing Gene to put together the book and we'd be working on the book, he would go into all these grappling terms and, you know what I'm talking about? And it's like, well, yeah, I took, a few years of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. And so then when I finally got the courage enough to go to his and Gokor's dojo, it was like every class was like, we're going to show this guy leg locks because they don't use leg locks in Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. And the moves, I came to the conclusion that not to knock Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, but it's a lot of getting into position. It's a lot of getting into the guard, getting out of the guard, getting into full mount, getting into cross mount. Even taught by Hoist or Horion or any of them. And Gene would show me moves, or his students would show me moves like how to get a neck crank from this north-south position, which is a transitional move in Gracie Jiu-Jitsu where no one would expect an attack.
Mm-hmm.
Because they got so grounded into the Alio Gracie set of moves. And when you work with these old school grappling guys, they're showing you all these wrist locks, leg locks, just a whole plethora of moves that, they don't even talk about in the Gracie system.
I got a question, okay?
What was that?
I got a question. How come, when we watch a Pride or something like that, we really don't see all those moves? But we do see a lot of the jiu-jitsu guys. Because I would, I think if these holds, again, all these great holds, I think that'd be the coolest thing when you watch those shows to see all those cool holds. But really, for the most part, you've got some guys like Nogueira with a real wide variety. But he's jiu-jitsu background anyway. I'm just wondering. I'm not. I know that they know their stuff. And I know that there's an art to all this, and I'm just more. It's more. I'm just wondering how come this hasn't surfaced so much, at the Pride level.
Well, I think we've taken a direction in mixed martial arts where at the promotional level they've kind of gone with a lot more guys who are good at striking. I'm a little more familiar with UFC for whatever reason. I've been watching more UFC pay-per-views lately.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, we haven't seen these guys, and it's kind of gone so much towards the kind of striker with some grappling. Or a grappler who could take down and throw punches, that we've kind of gotten into this mold where I'm kind of seeing the same things, and I'm seeing a lot of guys not using those old techniques, and not even using a lot of Gracie stuff.
Yeah.
And so I think somebody's going to come up. I kind of had high hopes for Caro Parisian, who's...
Well, he looked great in the one fight. Now, what's happened with Caro Parisian?
I haven't really been to Gene. I live up here, so I haven't been to Gene or Gokor's dojo, so I don't know. I just remember going into the school and seeing 18-year-old Armenian guys, and I'm like, I don't want to spar those guys. That guy's gonna make me cry in 2 minutes,
Yeah.
Because they were hitting the bag and working out with each other, and they were you know, up to 11. Those guys, you know, Caro and there's a few of his friends or maybe his brothers. I mean, they're really nice guys, but you know, they don't play with spar. They don't spar light ever. You know. Caro, I don't know. I'd have to talk to Gene about it. He had that second fight, and he looked good in it, but the other guy was just stronger. I mean, it was Caro's skills in judo and grappling that kept him in that fight, though, against what was a much physically stronger. What was the weight difference in that? There was at least 10 pounds.
I don't even know. I think that was a dark match on a UFC.
It was. I only saw the little highlight reel.
Yeah, because I don't think that I actually saw that match. Yeah.
Half the reason I bought that UFC was for Vitor versus Couture, and then for the Caro match, and then I saw the Caro match in little pictures, and the Vitor match was like that weird freakish.
Hold on just for a second, Bob. Okay, because we just got to hit a commercial break, and then we'll be right back with you. Okay. Okay, we're back right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Hey, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor with Bryan Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. We just got a couple of minutes left. We're going to go. This. I tell you what, a lot of the times I have a pretty good idea where the show's going when it starts, and this time it didn't go where I expected. We had a lot of interesting talk about submission wrestling and things like that. Non-traditional from what we see in the jiu-jitsu and on UFC, talking about, and the funny thing is like with Danny Hodge and Gene LeBell, we're talking about guys whose background, I mean, they both had legitimate sports background. Gene LeBell was a judo champion, and Danny Hodge was obviously one of the great amateur wrestlers of all time. But both of those guys, I think, and Bob, tell me if I'm correct, Gene honed a lot of that stuff from learning from the pro wrestlers.
Gene trained in Japanese judo dojos in Los Angeles, but his mother, Eileen Eaton, was the boxing and wrestling promoter, and so was his stepfather out of the Grand Olympic Auditorium, or the Olympic Auditorium in Los Angeles. And so ever since Gene was 7, I mean, Strangler Lewis first started showing Gene submissions, these kind of hooker-shooter submissions when Gene was 7 years old, and then later Gene, when he was a teenager, was learning hooks from Luthez, when the pro wrestling champion still had to be able to choke a guy out or break an arm in case anybody got funny with him in the ring and, tried to take the belt for himself. So Gene learned all of those old Luthez tricks from Luthez and, from Strangler Lewis and from a whole variety of people who came through the LA circuit at that time.
Okay, Bob, we are totally out of time. Bob, real quick, why don't you plug Gene's book?
Well, it's The Toughest Man Alive. You can find it on Amazon. It's written by Gene LeBell, and it's been out for a few months now. It's been a little slow roll out there. Okay,
well, anyway, Bob, thanks for calling in, and I want to thank everyone for joining us. Really good time for the last 2 hours. We'll see you next week. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network.